Hello and welcome back to Scout Report, where we give you a statistical breakdown of the biggest talking points in football. This week we are analysing how to convert Chelsea into Champions League challengers. Let's get started. Recent deficiencies. Come this May, it will in all likelihood be 8 long years since Chelsea managed to win the Champions League against all odds. Not only did they recover from a 3-1 first leg deficit against Napoli in the last 16, which ultimately cost AVB his job, only to appoint a club legend with less than 3 years managerial experience and beat Benfica and Barcelona to reach the final. But they then overcame massive favourites Bayern Munich with a starting 11 that included Bosingwa, Kalou and Bertrand, whilst conceding 35 shots. 10 more than any other finalist has conceded this century. But since becoming the first London club to win the tournament though, it's been far from plain sailing. They've had 7 permanent managers, with coaches of the calibre of Benitez, Mourinho and Conte all failing to get the Blues back to the top of European football. That level of instability is never going to be conducive to long-term success. The 4 Champions League winners since 2012, Bayern, Real Madrid, Barcelona and Liverpool, have had 4.5 different managers on average between them across that period. Even Real Madrid and Barcelona, who have been particularly trigger-happy in recent years, have still only gone through 6 managers apiece. Chopping and changing coaches not only brings with it issues in terms of squad cohesion, with different players brought in to be fitted into a particular manager's style, but it's also a massive financial burden. It cost Chelsea €31 million to get rid of Antonio Conte and his large backroom staff in July 2018. And their decision to battle the Italian in the courts for a year proved out to be a costly and ultimately futile endeavour. Sarri's exit last summer took the total Abramovich has spent on removing managers to over £100 million since arriving in 2003. An enormous amount of money which could have been better spent on the squad. While some would argue that Chelsea's policy has led to no little domestic success, with their 5 trophies since 2012 only topped by City's 8 in that period, the ultimate prize has so far eluded them. In that time, Chelsea have competed in the Champions League 5 times, and bar reaching the semi-finals in 2014, where they lost 3-1 to Atletico Madrid, they have failed to make it past the last 16. And it's not like their exits have been down to particularly unfortunate draws, with their vanquishers PSG in 2015 and 2016 and Barcelona in 2018 failing to even make the semi-finals. That is a very poor return for a club that has spent €1,073 million on signing since 2012. 161 million more than Liverpool, who have reached 2 finals in the last 2 years. So it's clear that returning Chelsea to the top of European football will be no mean feat. Here are 3 ways we think they could do it. Before we move on to our next section, just a quick reminder to subscribe to EuroFootball Daily and hit that notification bell to never miss a Scout Report. Change the goalkeeper. It's been well publicised that Chelsea's main problems seem to be their defence this season. They have conceded 34 goals in 25 league games, 5 more than 14th place Palace, and only Everton have conceded more in the top 10. Couple that with another 9 in the against column in the Champions League, with only Spurs and Atalanta conceding more of the last 16 qualifiers, and just 7 clean sheets in 36 games in all competitions. To put that in context, most people agree that Arsenal have been poor defensively this term, but they've kept 9 clean sheets in 35 games, albeit whilst playing in the Europa League. But Chelsea's defenders aren't actually underperforming. They are only conceding 8.8 shots per game, the second lowest in the Premier League behind Man City, and only 0.3 more than Conte's title winners conceded in 16-17. Some might say, but they must be very high quality chances. Well, not really. Their expected goals against ranks 4th in the Premier League and suggests they should have conceded 27.7 goals, 6.3 fewer than they actually have. In fact, only Southampton have a higher differential between their expected and actual goals against. In the Champions League, it's even worse, with the Blues conceding 9 goals from 20 shots on target. That means that 45% of the shots on target against Chelsea in the Champions League have gone in, compared to 22% for Valencia, the other side to qualify from Group H. So what are all these statistics telling us? That Chelsea need to change their goalkeeper immediately. Kepa has saved just 54% of the shots he has faced in the Premier League this season, nearly 9% off the next worst Everton's Jordan Pickford. While some would argue that the 25-year-old deserves more time, considering that David De Gea drastically improved after a shaky first season, his fellow Spaniard had the benefit of being just 20 when he signed and had a Europa League title under his belt with Atleti, whereas Kepa had played just 54 games for Athletic Bilbao. Our suggestion for who Chelsea should replace him with is AZ Alkmaar's keeper Marco Bizot. At 28, he's far from a spring chicken, but he has 2.5 seasons of Eredivisie experience under his belt, and before that 3 campaigns with Genk. This year he's been absolutely superb, with AZ conceding just 15 goals in 21 league games, a figure only bettered by Real Madrid and PSG in Europe's top 5 leagues. His save percentage of 84% is absolutely world class, and only topped by Alisson's 87% in Europe's Premier divisions. And for those questioning whether Bizot's season is quite simply a flash in the pan, his save percentage has never been outside the top 4 in the Eredivisie in his 2.5 seasons there. Valued at just €6.4 million by Transfermarkt, this elite shot stopper should be strongly considered. Superstar wide talent. While some might look at Chelsea's starting lineup and see a potential weakness at left back, we feel that the emergence of Reece James on the opposite flank and movement of Vaspi over to the left means it's less of a necessity. Since entering the first team picture in mid-October, 20-year-old James has shown himself to be one of the outstanding emerging right-backs in European football. 3.8 tackles and interceptions per 90 with a tackle success rate of 69% compares well to Alexander-Arnold's 3 and 53%. And it's not like Liverpool have significantly more possession, with an average of just 0.9% more per game. Whilst he is not quite the attacking force of his Reds counterpart just yet, his 1.2 key passes per 90 is only topped by 3 right-backs in the league: Trent, El-Mohammadi and Serge Aurier. So with Azpilicueta at left back backed up by Emerson and James going from strength to strength on the opposite flank, we feel that Chelsea's main investment this summer should be in a world-class winger. Willian and Pedro have both been fantastic servants to the club, with the former playing at least 40 games for the last 6 seasons and the latter the same for the last 4. In that time, they have each contributed to 0.3 goals per Premier League game, a very solid return for 2 long-term servants. But at 31 and 32, it's time to start thinking about the future. And with Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi both having played 45 Premier League games between them, an established star would be a wise acquisition. Now, the name that everyone is instantly going to jump to is Jayden Sancho. Born in Camberwell just over 5 miles from Stamford Bridge, the 19-year-old grew up supporting Chelsea before coming through the academies of Watford and Man City. Now repping it up at Dortmund, the 11-capped international has proven himself to be one of the best players in Europe this season, with only Immobile and Levin Dosti contributing more than his 24 league goals at the time of writing. With 11 goals and 9 assists in his last 12 games for club and country, Sancho is quite simply on fire. But things haven't always been as simple for the Englishman this campaign. In November, the former Man City player was substituted after just 36 minutes of their 4-0 defeat to Bayern in Der Klassiker, with Favre labelling his performance not good enough. This came just a month after Sancho was dropped and fined by the club after returning late from 3-lance duty. According to The Athletic, this sequence of events left the teenager feeling humiliated, scapegoated and unprotected by the club. This no doubt pricked the ears of clubs around Europe, including Chelsea, who have repeatedly been linked with a €120 million summer switch. After a slightly challenging first campaign in the Champions League, where Sancho only contributed 2 goals in 7 appearances before being effectively shackled by Pochettino's Spurs in the last 16, the enigmatic winger has excelled this campaign. 2.5 shots per 90, 0.3 more than he manages in the Bundesliga, and a ridiculous 3.5 dribbles per 90, only topped by 4 players who have played at least 350 minutes, have led to 2 goals and 2 assists, including a memorable strike at the Nou Camp. But if Chelsea were beaten to a signature by another club, who should be plan B? Whilst Chiesa and Sabitzer would definitely be worth considering, we believe that Hakim Ziyech is the best alternative. Still just 26, the 32-cap Moroccan has contributed to at least 20 Eredivisie goals in 4 of the last 5 seasons, and 12 in the Champions League in his last 17 appearances. 3 of the last 5 Champions League winners have at least 3 players contributing to 5 or more goals in the course of the competition. As it stands, only Tammy Abraham has contributed more than 2. Chelsea need to add more goals and creativity to their side. So if they can't get Sancho, Ziyech might be an option, and with a €53 million valuation, a significantly cheaper one at that. Help out Tammy. But recruiting a world-class winger isn't the only way to improve Chelsea's Champions League ambitions. After all, their creativity has never really been an issue, with the side currently averaging 18 shots per game, 3rd in the competition behind Real Madrid and Bayern. Instead, they need to focus on their finishing, with 9 teams scoring more than their 11 goals. We rate Tammy Abraham here at FD, and with good reason, having watched the 22-year-old contribute 16 goals in 23 Premier League games, whilst operating at 0.72 expected goals and assists per 90, 0.09 more than Aubameyang. But it's clear that the academy graduate needs help. Not only has he scored just 2 goals in his last 9 games, but he is now playing on painkillers after picking up an ankle injury against Arsenal. His form suffered during their recent game against Leicester too, with the forward failing to fire off a single shot. With 33-year-old Giroud almost certain to leave this summer and Batshuayi set to be sold after being trusted with just 225 League and Champions League minutes, we suggest Chelsea recruit 2 strikers this summer. Crucially, these 2 additions would be to support Tammy rather than instantly displace him, so we haven't suggested names like Timo Werner, who in all likelihood would be out of their price range in a summer where they target Sancho. Instead, we suggest they bring in 32-year-old Dries Mertens on a short-term deal of max 2 years. Still capable of performing at the top level, having contributed 33 goals in his last 51 league games, despite the chaos in Naples over the last 6 months, he would be a perfectly capable third-choice striker, who could also cover the flanks. Our second suggestion is a player who has taken to first-team football with ease this season, Victor Osimhen. Having played just 14 top-5 league games prior to 1920 with Wolfsburg, very few people took much notice of Lille's €12.5 million capture of Charleroi Osimhen last summer. But after 13 goals and 3 assists in his first 26 League and Champions League appearances for Les Dogs, he became one of the most talked about young players in European football. Blessed with extreme pace, a 6'1" frame and unreal anticipation, it's little surprise the 9-cap Nigerian has fired off 3 shots per 90 in the Champions League this season, more than Mane, Morata and Icardi. At just 21 and valued at €32 million, Osimhen will no doubt have suitors, but he is arguably one of the most affordable and exciting attacking talents in Europe. Chelsea should strike immediately. So to conclude, we believe if Chelsea were to offload Kepa, Marcos Alonso, Pedro, Batshuayi and Giroud, with their combined market value of €139 million, and brought in Bizot, Sancho, Mertens and Osimhen in their place, Lampard's side could be Champions League contenders once again. So guys, that's all we've got time for on how to make Chelsea Champions League contenders once again. What did you guys think of the video? Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, they've got a massive battle to get into next season's Champions League, with Spurs now just 4 points behind, so it's doubly important that they hold on to that 4th spot. Let me know what you guys thought of it. Don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll see you next time. Bye!